きですぐですけど。
先週もうゼミには送れませんってメールくれたばっかな。授業も来なかったね。月曜日の授業も遅刻したらしいです。
行かなかったらしい。
Good morning, everyone. Today I will report my research progress. First of all, I will call the objectives for the period, and after that I will summarize what I have done in this period. And then I will give a review of a related paper. Before closing the presentation, I will talk about some objectives and plan for the next period. Well, refer to the previous report last month. This is what I have done in this period. First, I have revised the research methodology, and another side work is to bring the memorandum of understanding between camps of Tokyo Tech and Faculty of Information Technology in Lequidon Technical University in Vietnam. And I have attended IJOS as an organizing member and do some paper survey. Well, here is the summary of the progress for the period. First of all, the MOU between the two institutions has been signed and have brought it back to Tokyo Tech. During the 2 weeks stay in Vietnam, I have visited this research institute. Well, at IJOS, I have met Professor Alexis Drogo, who is the father of Gamma platform, which is Gamma platform is a multi-agent simulation platform which we have the ability to use complex GIS data and have ability to handle a vast number of agents. And well, this research institution in Hanoi is they have a lot of projects, and one of those projects is to develop this project Gamma, GIS and agents-based modeling architecture. And these guys, I have contacted with this guy before, and I have read some paper of him. He also he already take a PhD and go back to France, but his research is developing and modeling avian influenza in the northern of Vietnam, which is related to my previous research. So I have contact with him. So during the stay in Hanoi, I have visit this research institute and have a little talk with researchers there. And well, they have said that the research situation in Hanoi, in Vietnam, is much more improved. And so maybe after graduation at Tokyo Tech, I can go back to Hanoi to find some research position to continue my research. Well, at the next slides, I will revise the research methodology. At the last progress report, I have introduced to you my original research methodology. And after received a lot of advices from the members, especially from Dr. Deguchi Lab, I have revised the model. And now the whole process is divided into 3 stages. At the first stage, data knowledge collection, boundary settings, and theoretical investigation generates the information to build an abstract model. And this process should be repeated in a circle. In the second step, these 3 processes should be repeated in a cycle. And the last but not least, the stage 3, the model verification is the data feeding process, and model validation is how to use the model to validate several hypotheses that you have found from theoretical investigations. So this is the revisal research methodology of my own research. So from now on, I will give you an introduction to a paper called Agent-Based Modeling for the Spread of Influenza-like Illness in an Emergency Department Simulation Study. This paper is published this year in this journal, and you can find an edited copy of this under this link. Well, the objectives of the papers is to develop an agent-based modeling framework in order to simulate the spread of influenza virus infection in an emergency department in Winnipeg, Canada. And the results suggest that within a given instant context, patient-oriented infection control policies tend to have larger effect than policies that target to healthcare workers. That is the findings of the paper. Well, nosocomial infection, which is called hospital-acquired infections, are prevalent in hospitals throughout the world and contribute significantly to patient mortality and the cost for patient care. And in this paper, ILI, influenza-like illness, refers to a set of common symptoms including fever, chills, malaise, dry cough, and body aches, which are most commonly caused by common cold or influenza virus. The virus that cause ILI are spread by close proximity, airborne contact, and personal contact like handshake, or as well as contact with inanimate objects like tables and other stuff in the room. And infection mitigation and control factors tend to focus on facility hygiene. That means cleaning the cleaning room or so on. Or personal hygiene, which means wearing a mask or washing your hands. And patient isolation. Well, here's the context of epidemiology models, which is models for spread of infectious disease. And well, the models can be divided into category. The mathematical models, which has a long history, and agent-based model and individual-based model. What I think it's just another name, but in fact they have the same architectures. So agent-based models, which is very relative measure. The technology of using agent-based modeling in modeling infection of infectious disease is relatively mature and is still in early stage. But it can take advantage of integrate the real data into the model, especially you can include electronic medical record systems, as well as real-time patient and healthcare workers tracking system. So that kind of available real data can be integrated into agent-based modeling, and that's that claims the advantages of agent-based modeling. In this, yeah.
This is the mathematical model means stochastic differential equation.
Yes, the equations based
Differential
model.
equation.
Yeah,
Stochastic
like
differential equation.
SIR model or so on. And, well, the progression of agent-based modeling with respect to disease spread has largely moved from relative large-scale models, like countrywide or global, to community level, like a small city or small island or a hospital. And this is very important public health policy issues, and have now, although it's still in the early stage and still very rare, but it can contribute important findings to public health policy.
Do you think is there any difference between individual-based and agent-based?
Well, I think the structure, the architecture is the same, but nowadays individual-based model is not so. For example, some guys in Japan have built an individual-based model, but in fact they have the same architecture with agent-based modeling. The individuals in this case, they refers to human, like patient, healthcare workers, stuff. But in agent-based modeling, the equipment and facility and maybe a room or a ward can be considered as an agent. But individual-based is more human-oriented approach.
I think
agent-based one is room-oriented, place-oriented.
No, this means that you can human facilities and objects can be considered as an agent. But in individual-based model, they already it's already human-oriented. That means agent. Objects are human.
I think there's no difference, but
Yes, that's right.
the different naming agent is easily accepted.
Yes. Yes, as I said at the beginning, is that this is in the same category. That means they have the same architecture, but just another uses of name. So individual-based model that they the objects, the agents, is only human. But agent-based model is more, in a general concept that agents can be not only humans but can be facilities or objects or equipment or so on. But they have the same architecture. Nowadays, this name is not usually used nowadays. Now they all agent-based model or ABM. Yeah. Well, this is the graphic user interface of the model, and the simulated world is a 2D world which have a high resolution, 1,400 pixels and 1,080 pixels wide. So 1 pixel stands for 2 centimeters. So this department is about 28 meters and 20 meters wide. And an agent, patients, nurses, and doctor is represented by a so-called have a radius of 60 centimeters. And here is the scenario of contact with between the two agents. Well, patients are modeled as occupy a circle space within a radius of 60 centimeters, and in this case, the agents within a close contact range. That means the close contact is defined as any interaction where the center of the point of the agents are within 40 centimeters. Is 40 centimeters, and any interaction where the center point is larger than 40 centimeters but smaller than 120 centimeters is defined as a casual contact range. The bigger than that distance are defined as outside of the contact range. And the probability of transmission in close contact range are this number per second. And probability of transmission in the casual contact range is twice smaller.
Omia-san,
Yeah.
how they can determine the probability of transmission?
It is not explained
Ah.
in the paper. And here is the algorithm how the virus is transmitted. And first they generate a random number between 0 and 1. And if that random number is smaller than close rate, then A infects B. And with a smaller possibility, the infected agents will infect the uninfected agents. So it's very simple algorithms based on SIR model. Yeah, well, here's the conceptual flow of patients through the emergency department. Well, patients will have a highest priority will go straight into the treatment rooms and get treatment, and then can be discharged or admitted to the hospital. Ordinary patients will follow the ordinary flow from registration to waiting for a triage and waiting for a doctor available and go to treatment, go to have treatment, and then be discharged. Well, here's the whole image of the system. Well, the system can be defined as have three modules. The first one is the disease transmission module, which is I have described before as is a SIR-like model. And the patient activity is the patient activity flow as the previous flow chart, and the control factors. I have set the paper, but nothing about control factors is found. They compare four policies, but how they change the parameters in for those policies is not explained in the model. The inputs of the system is the number of healthcare workers, the arrival rate of patients, how many patients per hour, and the immunity rate, contact range, close contact, casual contact, and probability of transmission. And the outputs of the system is number of infected patients and infected healthcare workers, and they compare four policies to compare the efficiency of the four policies. Well, I have tried to implement the model in SWOT.
Sorry, I have a question. What is the four policy?
I will show you after that. I have already written here, but which is first of all the visual. Well, the layer of the hospital is exactly the same as the system. Can I have a seat? Well, it has the same layer as in the original model here. And well, there are four type of agents: patients, doctor. Patients will arrive at a certain arrival rate. Doctors, there are three doctors, and two triation nurses, and two registration nurses. And well, the patient will follow the movement. Patient movement is model as in this flow chart. And the big problems when I tried to model this model in the paper by SOAS is that in SOAS we don't have XY coordinates, right? So, for example, in this case, the waiting room is very big. For example, we have waiting room here. And treatment room is much more smaller. And for example, an agent is represented by a circle of 60 centimeters. So this A will infect B with a probability of P1. Okay. And now the same situation, but A and B now belongs to waiting room that which have much bigger, which is a bigger space. So they will A and B walking randomly in this room and contact with each other, and have a probability of transmission is P2. So in this case, because for example, for instance, waiting room is 4 times bigger than treatment room, so P1 will be P2 will equal to P1 divided to 4, because they are working random in this room and contact with each other. So if they in the smaller room, they would have a bigger probability of transmitting the virus. So the idea is, now we define a virtual density for each room. For instance, in this case, treatment rooms will have VD1 equal to 1, and this waiting room virtual density VD2 equal to 4. So the probability of transmission will be P will be a probability of transmission divided into divided to virtual density, and then generate a random number. If P is smaller than random, then a effects P. It's the same algorithm in this describing the model. But because in this model, in SOAS we don't have x, y coordinates, so I have an idea of use of virtual density to transform the equations into this. And so the infection role in the models, in SOAS model, we calculate this P and compare it to a random number, and if the P is smaller than random number between 0 and 1, then infected agents will transmit, will infect uninfected agents. So I have run the model for 10 times. And well, the generated the SIR curve, which represents the number of uninfected agents, infected agents, and recover agents, is described in here. Because in the paper, the time steps is hours by hours, but in the SOAS models, the time step is 10 minutes. So have count the number of SIR agents by time steps of hour and generate the SIR curves here. You can see that it's a typical SIR curve. Here is the number of uninfected agents, infected and recovered. I run the model for 10 times and compare it to the simulation of the original paper. The number of patients that become infected between this time is the 7th day after the simulation, and I have checked the number of patients become infected and simulated by the model in SOAS and compared it to the original one, and have a little gap, but not so much. One parameter that I couldn't find in the paper is the infection period, infection time. That which means how many days that it takes for infected agents to become recovered. It's not right in the paper. So this define this define the SIR curve can be, shift to left. It means that the peak is shift to the longer time. So that parameters is not available. So there was a gap between the simulation models, simulation results in SOAS and the original one. Okay, so here is some limitations of the paper. Well, they use SIR model to modeling influenza virus transmission, but because the control factors for example, patient-oriented hygiene, mask, wearing a mask or washing your hand, is very hardly, can be very hard to model it using SIR model, because in SIR model there's only two parameters: the transmission probability and recovery rate. So how to change that parameters to modeling the control factors is very difficult, and it's not clearly explained in the paper. That is one of the big, I think, limitations of the paper. And well, they compare policies by covering counting the number of infected. Here is number of infected agents in the 7th day after the simulation. And it can generate this kind of data. And they use linear regression to linear regression. Here is the control 1. And the same situation have they use linear regression to evaluate the control 2. So because the number of infected agents increase sharply with control 2, relative compared to control 1, so they claim that control 2 is more effective than control 1. So that this is how they use ORIS, order least square, to evaluate the efficiency of control measures. Well, I think it's fine, but the reason why they use the linear regression is not explained in the model, in the paper. That is one of the, I think it's a limitation of the paper. Well, however, the paper gave me an inspiration of using and transforming the data available from the health authority. For example, they have a medical record system that record how many patients have arrived and how many patients have discharged from the hospital, and that kind of data can be transformed to use in the model. So that's I get an inspiration from the paper. Well, conclusion and discussion of the paper. Well, it's not so important, so I pass this slide. Well, come back to my research. Well, the objectives and plan for the next period is to reconstruct the framework. I have built a model and the simulation, analyzed the results, but the whole framework is not well described. So I have already established the methodology, and the next step is to reconstruct the framework and describe the framework more clearly. And I'm thinking of revise the model, rebuild the model, which I will build a model for several layout of the hospital and compare the simulation results between those layouts, and prepare for the next year's WCSS conference and build a model and write a paper. Is the objectives for the next period. Thank you for your attention. How many minutes?
You can any question about it.
Can I ask for the workflow density? Is it a fixed value
Yes, it's fixed value because in the layout of I use ruler to because this is 1,400 pixels. So so I compare this treatment room, the set a vitosity for 1, and then I compare the space. The space, I mean how large this waiting room or this resistor room is. How much large compared to this room, and for example, in this case, this vitosity is 1.5, and this is 5, because it's 5 times bigger than this, and this room is 3. Yeah.
The virtual density is the virtual space, not the population density.
Yes, but because the agents walking randomly in the room, so as the regions, because they walking randomly in every room, so the probability of they contact with each other can be reflected by use virtual density.
Or how about the time?
Time?
Yeah, maybe in a certain time there are more agents in the area, and in a certain time there is no agent in that area, so we could consider that situation.
Well, because in the model they calculate because here in the algorithm of the original paper, the transmission rate, I mean the probability of transmitting the disease is calculated for only 2 agents. That means, generally, if there are more infected agents in the room, there will be a bigger transmission probability to another uninfected agents. This is generally this is true, but in this paper, they calculate out between the two agents. For example, in an SIR model, if we calculate how much possibility this agent is populated, we can because the population the transmission possibility is constant in SIR model, the P. So in this case, it should be calculated as because an agent will transmit virus in the environment and make this environment contaminated. So the probability P. So I1, I2, I3 have the same possibility. So P. So the possibility of this this space is contaminated is pretty the transmission possibility is so this is the possibility of the of uninfected agent is not affected. So there are three infected agents in the room. So the possibility of the agent which is not infected is 1 minus 3 power 3. So here's the possibility of uninfected. The agent get safe. So 1 minus this possibility, we define the possibility of the agents can be affected. So this is the the true equations for SIR mode. But in the mode, they only generate the general number between the two agents. So we compare. Yeah.
What in your model you use this?
No, I didn't. I just do the same thing as the same algorithm as the original.
So in your model you not measure the distance between one agent.
Well, as I said before, that in source we don't have XY coordinates, so we cannot know how far how far they are the distance between the two agents. We cannot calculate it because we don't have XY coordinates in source. So I have defined a video scenic this density is the how large the room is. So because the agents walking randomly in the room, so the possibility of transmission will reduce if they get in a bigger room. That's right. Because the probability of transmission is fixed. And they call the NIL parameters.
But in the next picture in your research, do you want to consider the
No. In our research, it's not SIR model. It's more like.
I mean, do you want to consider the distance between? Don't you use the equipment to look the distance between agents?
Well, it's hard to use this instrument.
Because since spatial density is quite a strong assumption. Because you have to assume
Density
the agents
and also the
are
distance
randomly distributed.
But if you include this is make your model more real.
Well, we have a wireless device, and they have a mode
Yes.
that record the contact time. That means if you come to each other within a distance, it will record the start time and the stop time. That means record the time that you get contact. So maybe use that parameters can be more effective compared to use XY coordinates in SWAT.
And I thought when I'm modeling this city, I think not such this number. I think if I modeling such a waiting room, divide for complex, or such as waiting room southwest, waiting room southeast. But this method is more sophisticated one because not complicated.
So that in SWAT you do SWAT, right?
If I finite so, but this method more sophisticated.
Well, I think it's wise to use this methodology to for example, it's 3 times. If the space is 3 times bigger than this place, how can you divide it? No, there's no room like this, right? And maybe, for example, 3.5 times bigger than the unit room. Well, because in this in this original model, they were just working randomly in the certain space. Yeah. So as a result, they will have a possibility of contact with each other, and refers to the how big the space is.
In this model, there is no recovery explaining about recovery. Yeah, do you
Yes,
say
yes.
that? But in your model, recovery is depends on the control, the external control.
In what model?
In your model. In
No,
your,
it defines the time that when you get the flux that you infected, until you get the flux that you have been recovered. How many times? For example, in this model, in the SOAS model, I use 4 days.
But in my opinion, it is possible to make the function recovery rate depends on independent variable like control 1, control 2, control 3, because the control is want to recover the patient. So maybe if you can make the function about recovery rate depends on the control, like raising hand, like use the mask. Maybe this is
Well, here's the
this is
linear regression for the 4 policies in the model, using mask for dismiss infected healthcare workers, or the same policy which patients oriented, and they compare in this case, for example, because it's -5, so this policy control in this case is the 4th one, and for example here it's -2 or -3 or something. Then because the number of infected agents decrease with a bigger coefficient. So they claim that, for example, dismiss low priority patients policies have is more effective than, for example, these policies. So because these 2 policies is healthcare worker oriented, these 2 policies is patients oriented, and because these 2 variable is smaller than this, so they claim that they argue that these 2 policies which focus on patients is more effective than these 2 policies. And they use just linear regression. They calculate the coefficients.
Any question? Thank you. Presentation.
Here's the RVs. The baseline, 2 nurse, 3 doctors, and arrival rate, and the immunity rate, and IRA, which is probability of transmission per second. And because in SOAS we calculate time step it 10 minutes, so I calculated this 600.
Is there any difference between activity, working activity between in-person and health person? Maybe health person is more active.
There are no, they just working randomly in simulated world, in the emergency department. and they follow this follow chart, walking from this room to this room, waiting for the old stone and go to the next room.
In-person same activity rather
A patient,
a patient.
I mean priority or infected patient will walk in
We walk
slower.
same as active person.
There's no referral to. And they divided the, the patients in 5. So infected and uninfected people, which have high priority, medium priority, and low priority. So there are 6 types of patients.
Priority means triage.
Yes, for the highest priority, they will go straight to treatment room, and in the priority pre, if they have a higher priority, they will go go first.
Your research focus on only waiting, or not only waiting, but also for
Waiting room?
yes, I think waiting room, people in waiting room is moves randomly, but in treatment room, people don't move randomly.
Yeah. In this model, one doctor will occupy one treatment room, and only one patient can come into the patient treatment room. So there's only contact with doctor and patients. And in SOAS model, I develop the same thing, same situation. Yeah, waiting room is much more bigger than this treatment room. So it depends on how much how big the room is.
Good morning, everyone. I will explain about my progress circle. This is a reconstruction of my new research according to the last research about the concept of aspiration-based management in social system. This is the solution about from Deguchi Lab to construct the aspiration-based management in social system. So this is the all of my research plan. The last seminar, the last night progress report, I identify mathematical analysis about my manga, and I'm also working this time about how to maybe verify the dynamic of my model in mathematical analysis. And then I have collect some information about how aspiration is used to in several fields like economy, like decision making, like social system, and this is different. So I decided to collect more information about the use of aspiration in different field contexts. So this is I want to recover about a social problem. Like in my last research, I observed the use of aspiration level in organization problem. But in this research, I want to investigate how the aspiration can be used in another field. So I want to collect more information about the use of aspiration level. So this is my consideration. The first thing is why aspiration level is important. In case of social context and decision-making context, is there any difference between social context and decision-making context in use of aspiration level? This is I want to discover this one. And also the second is how the aspiration level is constructed. Because when I move to the learning concept, they not explain how the construction of aspiration level. So I want to also investigate about this. And the third is what is a set of factors that affect the construction of aspiration level. How aspiration level emerge in the context of social and decision making. This is the important problem that I want to investigate. And the last is how to make theoretical framework for aspiration level. This is the because my research more dealing with social context like psychology, but it is correlated to management, economic, and also social in case of decision making. So my contribution is not to make social explanation, but in terms of modeling context, simulation context. So this is the different. I want to make the differences between what is my contribution, because if I want to contribute about the social theory, it is not related to our discipline, to our department. Because if I belong to psychology or social department, maybe this is my my contribution, but this is not my contribution to make the social theory. But I want to explain in context of agent-based simulation to explain about the social context in case of aspiration level. So this is my outline. The first I want to talk about background, the story of concept of aspiration level, the concept of aspiration level, theory of aspiration level, and the last is pressure toward university. And the second is aspiration level in two contexts, in decision making and in social context, and how it relates to my previous model. And I build a research question according to the aspiration based in management context. So this is the history why the level of aspiration level is used in the different field, like in social, business, economic, education, political science, and this is the journal or the article since 1947 until 1997. This is the number of article who investigate level of aspiration level in many fields, in business, in social, in economic, education, political science. But as we can see in the late of 1960, this is decreased. But in this business, this is also increased until now. So this concept of aspiration level in the recent day is combined with learning concept, as my research in behavioral process, like in game theory and decision making. So it is they care about the importance of aspiration level in learning and in decision making. So this is the history of the concept of aspiration level. Begins in, this is maybe so long before they have already talking about the concept of aspiration level.
I have a question.
Yes.
That graph is until 1997. I want to know
Nowadays, they are not only talking about aspiration level. They combine with this learning experimental. This is 2000, 2002. No, nowadays is not only talk about, this is only talk about aspiration level. But now aspiration level is used to in the learning theory. Like my research, I use aspiration level learning theory based on aspiration level. But in this area, they're only talking about how the aspiration level image in its field, like in business, in sociology, in economic, education, political science. But until now, they combine, because they know people not only depends on aspiration level, but people also learning in their situation. So now aspiration level is combined to learning concept in nowadays.
Do you show the data with after
They are know that, but I found this difference. They're talking about how they use aspiration level in the learning concept, in decision, and also in decision making and in game theory.
I think this graph is not suitable for the presentation, because I feel aspiration level is research of aspiration level is increasing, and I feel from this graph.
Yes. This is decrease because
I think you should show the increased data aspiration research.
no. This is in this graph only use aspiration level in experimental, like business, like sociology. But now the concept of aspiration level is combined to the concept of learning. So they're not talking only aspiration level.
Oh, okay.
You
show combined data.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
So in this nowadays, they talking about aspiration level in terms of learning, in terms of decision making. This is and maybe we can collect the data and make the increasing number of the use aspiration level in learning children. So this is the concept of aspiration level based on experiment. Now, this is I explain how to measure the concept of aspiration level, how the aspiration level constructed. But this is based on experimental in psychology and sociology. So this is the concept of aspiration level, or the concept of level of aspiration level. So this is aspiration level. In this concept is explained like goal for each individual, and this individual want to achieve this goal. So this is the concept of aspiration level begins in 1960. And based on this concept, many researchers wants to make some model of this concept. There are two models. One is based on performance history, and one is based on discrepancy model. Relating to my model, I use this model. So the current aspiration level depends on the last aspiration level and the performance. This is the model of aspiration level depends on performance feedback. But in this model, the aspiration level, the current aspiration level, depends on the difference between actual performance and the last period aspiration level. So if we compare these two models, they are same, because in this model we can construct this one, but the difference is based on how we use this parameter. In this parameter they use 3 parameters, but in this model we only use 1 parameter, gamma. But in this parameter we use 3 parameters, alpha 0, alpha 1, and alpha 0. So this is the difference between this model and this one. So this is this aspiration level model, the first aspiration level model in they want to make the mathematical model. And this is the aspiration level in social context. The aspiration level is constructed by performance of similar others. So people might want to compare their performance to the other person. Why? This is some hypothesis from social comparison theory that explain why people make or how people make the construction of level of aspiration. Because in the absence of social comparison, subjective evaluation of aspiration level are unstable. Because people cannot compare this their self to another people. So if we have one goal, maybe I want to achieve value 20, but after I do something and I receive 24, I satisfied, because this is higher than my aspiration level. But if I do some work and I receive 15, this is lower. So my aspiration is fluctuating, because I cannot compare with other people. If we allow to compare, we have competition between I and my friend. So I want my aspiration level to close to another person when I compare my aspiration level. So this is the important fact. Someone close. So we have tendency to compare our aspiration level to another to make our aspiration level stable in the social comparison theory. So I want to prove, but this data, this hypothesis come from experimental study, not come from simulation study. So this is what I mean about facial toward uniformity. So in the group, the individual have different aspiration level. So he compare his or her aspiration level to another individual. So they want to reduce their differences between his aspiration level and his aspiration level. So if the difference is more closely, we means that aspiration level of this individual is more equal to this one. This is the result of social comparison. How aspiration level can be uniform in the social group. This is I want to explain more. So this is aspiration level in decision making. What decision maker means about aspiration level? This is the definition about aspiration level in decision making. Reference point that is psychological neutral. So we have reference point, and with this point we move how to make the decision. Like in the negotiation or in the bargaining, we have reservation value. Reservation value. You know what reservation value in negotiation or in bargaining? If you want to sell a house, your house, you must have reservation price. Maybe $200. So this is your reservation price. So if there are seller want to buy below this price, you reject it. You know. But if there are some another seller want to buy higher than this reservation point, you accept it. So this reservation point means that you indifferent. If there are some people offer your house with same like your reservation point. There are some people offer your house $20. It is same as your reservation point. You indifferent. You not satisfied and also not dissatisfied. Yes. But if the price is lower than your reservation price, you dissatisfied. But it's more higher than your reservation point, you satisfied. So this is the concept of reservation level in the bargaining situation. We call it reservation value. And also Mark and Simon use this concept about dissatisfaction and satisfaction, about level of aspiration. So we set our goal. If our performance is higher than our goal, we satisfied. But it is lower than our aspiration level, we dissatisfied. So if we satisfied, we increase. So the aspiration level is not static, it's dynamic. So if we have already satisfied, we increase this my aspiration level. But if I dissatisfied, I lowering my aspiration. So this aspiration level is dynamic. So this is the concept of aspiration level in decision making. And this is aspiration level in social context. So the difference is in decision making, we update our aspiration level every time. If we choose an action and we get the result, and if the result is higher, we increase our aspiration level. But it's lower, we decrease our aspiration level. But in social context, our aspiration level is the goal in the future, like in student aspiration level, like in job aspiration level. We have aspiration. I want to be the PhD. This is my aspiration level. So this is not cannot actually happen now. It happened in the future. So I must do much action to attain this aspiration level. So it is different between the actual aspiration level in decision making and in social context. So in job aspiration level is also how people can get the job. So this set our value, our goal in the future, and now we must have some action to reach our future goal. So this is the difference between decision making use aspiration level and in social context. So this is future oriented, can only be satisfied at some future time. So aspiration level are goals individual are willing to invest time, effort, and money to reach the aspiration level. So this is the two concepts of constructing aspiration level in decision making and in social context. So this is overview of aspiration level in decision making context. We have aspiration level in the time one and make a action and get the our performance and update to aspiration level. It is can be upward or downward. It depends on how we how the performance. If is satisfied, we increase, and if dissatisfied, we decrease. So aspiration level are adjusted every time according to performance. But in social context, we have future aspiration level, and we have many actions to reach the future aspiration level. And there are barriers. It depends on the barrier, ability, and the environment. So if I want to be the PhD in next time, so there are some barriers. This depends on my ability and also the environment I involve to get my PhD. So this is the future my aspiration. So this depends on decision making context, how to construct the aspiration level and social context. So aspiration level or future goal are adjusted depends on difficulty. Difficulty involve barrier, ability, environment to attain the goal. So this is the difference. So what is the problem? The problem is if we want to pursue toward uniformity above the aspiration level, we can build status stratification in social context, and also equality versus inequality. How to obtain the best aspiration level in a group without making stratification? So we not make a startup. But if we want to pursue toward uniformity, we can obtain this happen. So for example, if in a group A is superior, has higher aspiration level and be able to attain it, but the others are very divergent from A, what should he leave this group, or he stay in this group and make the other to encourage, to increase their aspiration level? So if A leave this group, so they make stratification. So this is how to manage the aspiration level in the group. This is I want to make the model and as and the simulation model. And the second is equality versus inequality. Maybe how do we identify the common goals or common aspiration level are the best one? Because if I share my aspiration level, but we did not know it is the best or not. So how we can identify? So for example, in case of student aspiration level, the higher the aspiration level, the better. So the student have the higher aspiration level, is more achievement. They can make the good achievement. But the student come from different social economic status. They are the higher social economic and the lower social economic. So how we can manage equality versus inequality? So this is according to the concept of aspiration-based management in the social context. This is I identify this can be happen if we want to manage aspiration-based in social context. So, in relation to my previous model, I have built sharing aspiration model. This is interact with other. They can share aspiration level by receiving information from their other member, so they can adjust their aspiration level to the group aspiration level. But in this model, this is the example. In this model, I have proved there are pressure toward uniformity, but not describe the hypothesis from social comparison theory. In social comparison theory, unstable aspiration level can be stabilized by social comparison based on similarity. So, make the stable aspiration level. And tendency to reduce discrepancy pressure can make uniform aspiration levels. So, I want to build a construction of aspiration level based on social comparison theory. After that, I can manage this problem, status stratification and also equality versus inequality. So from this, I have two important research questions. The first one, how to make a simulation model that describe construction of aspiration level based on social comparison processes. And the second one, how to manage aspiration level to overcome status stratification problem and equality versus inequality problem in social context. So, if I can build this model, how the emerging of aspiration level in social context. So, in the next, how to manage the emergency of aspiration level in social context. So this is two research questions. This is the main, because in this two main research question we can divide it in detail, more research question. So in my next feature work is I want to continue my analytical model based on my previous report, and to make simulation model that use comparison, social comparison theory, and also ESCS paper, the deadline, the hard, the paper, the complete paper must be sent before December 31. So I have revised my paper. So this is my visual, and because why I leave my work about analytical model, because this is the first, this is the simultaneously work. So because I can prove this analytical model based on this information. So I maybe I want to change my previous model based on information that I have already found until now. But maybe I will search another information, how the construction of aspirated level, and then relate it to my learning model, so I can prove my analytical model by mathematical analytical. So it is several difference that I build this concept. Maybe this is so many reference based on sociology, educational, like economic and rural education. This is based on the management science, human relation. So this is not connect directly to the agent-based model, like a learning model. But I have already searched another reference according about learning and also decision making, and I want to combine this social context information and the modeling or simulation theory. So this is important to combine the information based on social context and based on agent-based simulation theory. So how we can build a rule. So there are information from social context. There are data, but the data come from experimental, more experimental. So how can we use the secondary data? But if it's important to make the experiment study, we can also build the experimental study. But the first thing is how to make the contribution from agent-based modeling side. This is my my main goal. But we not live in social field. So thank you very much.
Any question or comments?
You said social context. But social context, you know, a lot of aspects. So now, do you think some concentrate some aspects?
Yes. Maybe in decision making context, like in how people can make a choice. But this choice depends on another person, like in game theory. Our action depends on another action. So this is I have been have already tried in this in case of cooperation game. How people can cooperate each other. So this aspiration rifle can can adjust it by outcome he received. But in this model, I want to build some game or a game how people can. This is the single decision making. So the people only make a task and receive some reward, and the task is and the outcome is determined by nature. This is my uh, my future work to use the game. This is different because in the social context, like in experimental in the constructor of level of aspiration, they use some kind of task, like how people can solve the mesh of the puzzle or the puzzle. So this is the task. So they are difficult tasks. So if people face on difficult tasks, how he can determine this aspiration level. So this is experimental. So I want to build a game and describe the single decision making, not interactive decision making like in games here. To describe my constructor of aspiration level. So I thinking what is the game. It is difficult to describe about how to build a game that describe single decision making, like in experimental psychology problem. Yeah, this is the important thing, how to make a game. If I there are so many simulation games also to investigate how people construct their aspiration. So maybe if I can make a game to make a simulation, and also I can make gaming simulation to dealing with human, real human, not AI. So this is my, if I want to make experimental. So all psychological experimental based on one task. So this is cannot be generated in another task. So it is, but this is valid. So we can use only one task to investigate how the expression constructed. This is valid. But how we can make a game that can get the information how aspiration level is constructed by you. But in first time I want to investigate by simulation, and also make some kind of gaming simulation to construct how the human. And also in gaming simulation we can also make interactive between agent and you. Some player is agent and some the other is you. So we can combine. So maybe I want to make the gaming simulation because with the construction of agent player, we can encourage, we can dig more information we want to investigate. In the real situation, there are instructor. They are tell to each participant and how he want intended how information. But if we use the agent to perform to encourage, they not know what is the information, because we use the other agent to dig more information how about the expression. maybe this is hidden construction. So we deliver our instruction based on this agent. So we must make how to dig more information based on hidden instruction. So maybe this is more more real, because if we talk to the participant have already guessed what is the experiment.
Can you show next slide? Next. Okay. Yeah. Is there any reference between the social economic status with and the aspiration level?
Yes.
Any
In the
reference?
student
Yeah.
aspiration, this is the people who come with the higher social economy, the parent he has give the children higher aspiration level rather than the people come to lower social economy.
I think it's different. For example, in Japan society.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
In,
This data come from UK.
Yeah, I just have an idea that there are Japanese corporations, this globalized and employers come from different society, so-called economic status. And it said that people come from lower socio-economic status have more hungry mind.
Yes.
And so they have a bigger
yes.
aspiration.
So also, if we in the minority, like in UK in this experience, the Indian people who live in UK is more higher because it's minority. So they must survive. They more survive. So they must have higher aspiration level to their children. So although he come from lower social economy, but he must survive. So how he can survive? They must have higher, like in some some environment, we have people who come from lower social economic also have higher aspiration level, because they are surrounded by person who have higher social economy but not in higher aspiration level. So they are motivated to make their survive in their environment. So this is also true. People who come from minority case also have higher aspiration level, and also women also have higher aspiration level rather than men, but they have many barriers. Women have many barriers, but in fact they have higher aspiration level rather than men, but they have many barriers. Some like in the student case, they have already married or something. They are not cannot if there are some pressure to the woman cannot handle the pressure rather than, but this is not general case. So many cases to investigate the experience level of human. This is depends on the environment or in the situation.
Yeah,
We not make a general case.
If you have a case of study, like a kind of one corporation, Japanese corporation, that which have a lot of we have employers who come from different socioeconomic status, and you can build something
Yes.
experimental or moral,
Yes.
and to organizing.
Yes. So in this case, in the UK case, the government make the plan how to increase higher aspiration level in case of student. Because the aspiration level, higher aspiration level, is also have effect on achievement. So if people or if the student have higher aspiration level, they have more achievement rather than who have lower aspiration level. So how to encourage the student in the case of social context, student have more aspiration level. This is the program of the UK in 2007 until now. The Prime Ministry of UK is also care about how to encourage the student aspiration level, so the student can have higher aspiration level, because higher aspiration level is related to higher achievement. So this is more important, equality versus inequality. In the same case, we have want to equal, like the case of prisoner dilemma. We want to all people have optimal, Pareto optimal situation. But in some case, like in student aspiration level, we encourage all people to have higher aspiration level. But what is higher? We say higher. It is difficult to determine. And this is according to my certification, how to manage. This is the important. So based on the simulation model, we can give some recommendation how to manage aspiration level to overcome status stratification and also equality versus inequality, where we need equality and when we need inequality. So based on the model, we can show, we can give some recommendation.
Successful in society is not, I think, not related with equality or not.
Yes.
So someone want to successful in society is another value.
So this is maybe so maybe like if we're in a child, we have higher aspiration. Yes, I want to be movie star. I wanna yes, but according to our increase in age, this is difficulty is we overcome so many difficulty. How to attain, how to get a movie star. So we reduce our future based on barrier, ability, and environment. So we not take an action and get the result. We must take several action or more than action to make the our reach the future, our aspiration. So this is can be changed according to barrier, ability, and our environment. So we adjust our aspiration level according to this. But in decision making context, we adjust every time according to our performance.
I think these are two aspects of aspiration. The above is in short time. and
Short term, yes. This is the long term.
Long term.
Yeah.
There's many dilemma between long and short.
Short term, yeah.
I have very big,
Yes.
I have very big dream, but I'm very busy now.
Yes,
I
yeah,
have to-
yes, yes. So many barriers to get the long term result. Yes. Maybe this is can be combined. How we can get our future goal by adjusting our performance every time. But it is more difficult. But in case of organization or firm, this is can be happen. So maybe in organization there are so many staff can examine what is our performance, so we can adjust every time. But in case of human daily action, this is so difficult to make decision and to improve our decision in short term.
Excuse me, I wonder that the aspiration levels has been used in auction field. Auction? What about the publication in auction? Because I think there are some relationships.
Yes. So many application of aspiration network. The moral is we must have aspiration network before we going to an action. Like before we going to bargaining or before we going to negotiation, we must set our aspiration network. This is the moral. Because without our aspiration network, we cannot move to the next level. How we can adjust? Like in beginning, if I offer your car $200,000, you can receive or not? If you not have your reservation price, so you confuse $2,100 is satisfied or not? So we must have, like in auction, so we must have how much, how maximum value we must offer to the auction. So if the auction have the highest than our aspiration level, we not make any offer again. But if the price is lower than our aspiration price, we can higher than until they found their limit of aspiration. This is important to any case. We must have some goal before we going to get it. There are so many in the price situation, in the auction, in the negotiation, in the bargaining. So many reasons. What is the importance of aspiration level in the field of auction, in the field of how people determine the price? This is important.
I think comparing with the traditional aspiration level, you consider the pressure from the uniformity.
Yes, yes. But in case of social situation, equality and equality versus inequality, how to manage this? This is important because in some situation, equality is important, but in some another situation, inequality is important. Higher is better, yes. So this is maybe this depends on. So I want to I want to investigate how we can manage equality versus inequality, but in special case.
But for the simulation, you want to design a game and
Yes.
And realize to the analysis about the aspiration level. Could you consider the factors, the pressures from your uniformity into your game?
Yes. The first thing I want to build a simulation that describe the constructor of aspiration. This is the first thing. How aspiration level can be constructed. This is my first goal.
So
After
you want to build two models?
yes, after that, based on the constructor model, I can analyze how to manage. So this is the step. First, how I want to build a model that describe the constructor of aspiration level, and the second, how to manage. This is the two steps. Because if we cannot describe how the aspiration level can be constructed, it is difficult to manage. Yes. Thank you.
But for thinking.
Yes, yes. So I must construct a game that can be interpreted in some common sense. How we can. So this is maybe the first. This is maybe the game. The task or the game is important to me to make the constructor.
What are you going to present in AECS 212? What are you going to present at AECS 212? Because there is no information in your first class code.
This is the title
Okay.
of this, and I have already made this explanation. Yes. And I
Okay.
So maybe there are some comment because only two pages, so they accept me with weak accepted, weak only weak. But this is no, so I must make more explanation in 12 pages, ending the Springer
Format.
before December.
Wait a minute. Are there any mention about that? You know that the submit page said that extended abstract, right?
Yes.
But yeah, because that depends on the system, and inside the ASCS committee, extend abstract means the full paper. So you can submit the 12 pages
Yes, yes, yes.
as an
yes.
extended. So that the reviewer said 2 weeks.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh. So maybe Oscar Saga also.
Also,
So only 2
you
pages.
know that I reviewed 2 papers.
Uh-huh.
The first one is 10 pages and
Ah.
the other is 12 pages. Maybe our mistake or I don't know exactly.
So in the first review say how you can make the simulation. What where is the
Okay.
formulation? Because I cannot make so many formulation. So I cannot make the formulation only in 2 pages. So there are no equation. And they are 2 review. And the other why you only describe 1 simulation? Because I can put only 1 feature. Maybe I have 5 feature, but I cannot make in 2 pages. So we accept it. So yeah, maybe in the first he must they told me you must set the 12 pages paper and revise according to the reviewer suggestion. So maybe if I must build this one to this more this is the this is what this is my six pages and I have so many equation like this. Yes. So I can I can understand so many figures. This one. So I cannot give all feature in 2 pages. But I must review. I must revise this one.
And one more thing is that I understand that what do you want to do in your doctor thesis research. I wonder that whether you can make a gaming model or
Yes,
not.
this is my main objective.
Because you know that designing a gaming model and also use that gaming model is very difficult. It depends on your experience.
Yes.
So maybe the design is not so good. The game is too bad.
Too bad. Yeah.
So did you?
Yes,
have
I must consider. So I must collect from social context, psychology context, decision making context, and also in the gaming building context.
Yeah. But the point is to make a good gaming model, you have to do a lot of gaming.
Yes.
Experience is important to make a gaming simulation model. So
Maybe I can start with simple and improve the gaming.
what kind of gaming did you? I think you have already done the the iterate prisoner dilemma like
Yes,
that, or
yes,
a video game
yes.
like that.
But this
How
game,
about the board game or the historical model?
yes. So in my imagination, I want to build a game. The game have difficulty.
Yeah, I know that.
So we
But
can.
before making a game,
Yes.
you have to have a lot of experience of doing
Yes.
a game.
Yes.
So, how many games you have already done?
Maybe in not the original my game, like Prisoner Dilemma, I can construct with source. Build game, the distribution until the customer. I can construct this game, but not in my school. I have already constructed the game because in 2007 I not cannot use the source in the game, so I build in Java. So there are only connected four by four. So there are no.
So you talks about the computer-based gaming, right?
Yes, yes.
But point is that the board game like a live game.
Yes, live game, yes.
That kind of game is important to improve your gaming design.
Yes, I know.
Technique.
Okay.
So ask whether maybe Professor Deguchi to have some gaming time, like the live game is fine, or like other ancient games.
Okay, so
And Professor Deguchi also has several games, original games. So you have to do that.
Okay, so the first thing is I must make re-gaming from.
Not re-gaming. Just first of all, you have to do the game,
Yes,
not
yes.
construct the game.
Oh yeah. To construct the game.
No, to have some
Experience. To make in the source. Yes.
Not that source. Just do the game. A
A
lot of games.
Okay.
Not constructing.
Yeah.
Just have an experience of gaming.
Understanding.
After that, maybe you can have a good image
yeah,
of
yeah,
constructing a game or designing a game.
Okay.
Don't think about making a
Yes,
game.
yes,
Just
okay.
do the game.
Okay, thank you.
So as Professor Deguchi, he has a lot of games, and also Professor Terano has a lot of games. And they ask some student, let's play the game. And maybe Professor Deguchi will facilitate the game. So, or maybe I have some proceedings of ISAGA, International Gaming and Simulation Association. So you have to check that one, and you can find the game. They ask other people to have some game. Like,
Okay.
that's a
Point.
point.
Before
Before construction.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Maybe after that I will get some innovation. So yes, maybe it's difficult, and I must prepare myself to understand many.
Yeah, but that for student, it's very difficult to have game because they don't have a student, not professor. You know that the professor has students, so they can test the game using the student.
Yes.
But for the student, like our lab,
Yes.
what they can do is just making an agent-based model. So in our seminar, first of all, make an agent-based model, then think about the model, or it maybe become a gaming simulation. So maybe I told you that last year's lecture about the hybrid simulation. That's one way of making a gaming simulation. But you already have an experience of teaching.
Yes.
So you have to learn more about the game. So don't think about the agent-based simulation to agent hybrid simulation. Just focus on the game.
Okay.
After that, you can think about, oh, this game will become a computer-based, or board based or like card based, right? And if it will become like computer based, maybe you can reconstruct using the source or Java or
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. This is important thing. I understand. Thank you very much.
一応全部の時間
I want to go to restroom, so let's how about take a break first.
私に聞かないで、みんなの総意でやってください。でもいいし、鳥貝君を来週に回すでもいいし。
来週だともうちょい進捗がちょっと取り扱って中ですけど来週の方がいいあどっちでも
ドクター2人言っちゃダメだよ、時間食うから。
まあ
普通に考えたら。
来週にしますそう来週でも大事じゃん僕はいつでも
めちゃくちゃ1週間で進捗出るからさ。
多分出る
このペースに。
じゃあ来週調整しないとね
どうなったのスキー。
はい
スキーどうなったの。
スキーですか、それ木沢君が抱えてるんですかね
知らんよ。あれで去年もレンタカー取るのにめっちゃかかったからね。
予約とかですか。
そう金曜日だからレンタカーが土日に出ちゃうとなくなっ
1月でした
20金土だけど土曜日にレンタカー使う人たちが予約入れると金曜に使えないじゃん。去年だってめちゃくちゃ品川かなんかだったもんレンタカーの場所。
そうです浜松町
浜松町かなんかまで探しに行ったんだから。
あとじゃあ僕がいるんで来てない人はまあいいとして忘年会22日にやるんですけど出れないどうしても出れないっていう人はいますか。いないここまで出れる
出れるだろう。
22出れる
石山君とかみんな来るよ。
そうです出れないじゃんめっちゃ刺されてる
藤川君と佐々木君も来るんでしょ。ミノルも
そうなんか
結構上の
じゃあでも
よーめー
わかんないなお前大丈夫ですか。普通に正月のキスでわかりました。特に他に出れない人はいないっていうことなんでこれで店を抑えます。
OB 誰。
OB はでも
藤川君に中村敦の連絡先聞いてみな。通知届いてないからメールが結構返ってきてるんだよ。
あと小松さん梅田さん
小松くんはダメって言ってなかったっけ。言ってない。
いや何にも
小松くんツイッターでね、
はい
昨日ポコッといたけど。
そうですねツイッターとかでも
あれ小松くんと
梅田さんと
梅ちゃんはフェイスブックが早いかな。梅ちゃんも来ると思うんだけどな。小松くんは多分ね見てないメールを。
あじゃあツイッターとかでダイレクト
その方が早い。
はい
であと佐々木実に斎藤誠を呼べないか聞いてみて。多分斎藤誠の連絡先は知ってると思うから。入江さん呼んでみるか。
藤川さん
藤川君に梅ちゃんと中村敦。
あ、中村さん
あとソワードプロジェクトは多分今日来るはずだからそこで確認取っちゃう。
声かけてみます。
あと誰かいたっ
入江さんっていう人は
け？入江さんは多分ね、もう連絡先が分かんないからなんとかしてみる。なんか年賀状来てたから。
上の市
俺
川さん
俺より上だよ。
上ですよね。
入江さんは来る可能性あるんだよね。山本さんは都内だろうな。そうだから OB 名簿を作んなきゃいけないんだけどさ、鳥貝君にバイトを投げたんだけど。
やります。
やるの？
データをいただければ。
データないんだ。だから
名簿のデータあるんじゃなくて。
名簿のデータもない。
自分で集めないんだ。
自分で集めたね。名簿のフォーマットはあるけど、
はい。
まず連絡先がわからないから潰しに先輩に聞いていかないと芋づる式にやっていかなきゃいけないんだよ。だから藤川君近辺は藤川君を起点にしてちょっと OB 名簿を作らなければいけない事態が発生しましたみたいな強制感を出さないとみんな情報出さないだろうから頑張ってください。多分ね、住所いらないよね。もう住所いらないからツイッターと携帯の電話と携帯のメールアドレスと普通の PC のとツイッター、フェイスブックのアカウントあたりを押さえればなんとかなるんじゃないかと踏んでるんだけど連絡が取れる。そんな話。そう全然連絡取れない。春日君とかはね何をしてるのかな。
春日さん
出れない取れない
出れない返信来ましたよ。
だから来れないって言ってたけど
すごいなんか遅い時間にメールが返ってきてたんで忙しいのかなっていうのが12月じゃん。夜
小松君はあれだな、12月22日自由が丘に来いって言う来る。梅ちゃん
自由が丘に
まあ自由が丘とか大岡山あたりですかね。
石山君奥さんよくわかんないけど一応プラス1になる可能性を
はい。すごい料理の上手な奥さんです。
あんま褒めると石山君がこうなるからやめて。
じゃあ次のゼミとかの調整を。
岩橋君がなんか2回連続で出てきて
はい。
来週のプレゼントは誰？
来週は山岸君とアンさんと鳥谷さん。
どっかのタイミングでドクター1の終始2に直してね。
あ、はい。じゃあネクストはチェアマンが山岸君。
いやダメだ。
ダメらしいです。
あ、ダメだ。
八木沢君ですか。
八木沢君もダメ、五十嵐君もダメだ。マヤ君はどうなるか知らない。
ちょっとくるくる。
くるくる回るやろ3人で。
とりあえず
五十嵐君は英語ブログも出してないからね。
あ、英語ブログ。
八木沢君に至ってはブログ自体も出してないからね。
じゃあ
ダメだよ。
じゃあ八木沢君で。
今ファーストクラス出る誰か直しといたけど。チェアのお仕事って。
あ、
ブログとかを出さないとチェアをやらなきゃいけなくなるってことですか。
先週そう決まったの。
仕事に漏れがあると。
仕事に漏れがあるともう一回繰り返る。だってさ、真面目にやってる人がさバカ見るじゃんこれさ。
僕もですか。
リモインドメールだって前日しか来てない。
あ、1週間前の。
で自分で作ったんでしょこれ、書いたんでしょ。
でもなんか1週間前って
いやでもその時って
まあ言うってことじゃないですか。
あれグエンさんからっていなかった。
いない人いるから。
そうそうそう。やっぱりその時は。
一応ゼミの終わりにのところにちょっと2段落目に書いといたから。
今回の違いそれ今やればいいんじゃない？
そう、まずそれを信任取れれば別に。
これが作ったやつないよ。
ちなみに言うとタイムマネジメントも今日してないでしょ。
質問がないか自分が質問する。
そうそう。まあ自らもう一回やりますって宣言してもいいけど。
じゃあその前の2人の
なのでとりあえず五十嵐君と八木沢君をまず。
これをチェックしてないんじゃないですか？
知らないよそんなことだって。
それ履歴全然見られてないんですよね確か。履歴の表示。
もう五十嵐君でいいんじゃないの？
あれ？
これ、ね、履歴出ないっぽいんだよ。
これ出ない。石川さんの
編集者しか出ないの出たけど。
でもとりあえず節さんとかそう。来週節さんとからしいです。八木沢君でいいんじゃないですか？
八木沢君でもいいよ。
五十嵐君発表して。あ、違うか。あ、そうだ。
もう関係ないよそんな。
じゃあ五十嵐君。
でもそのゼミの不備があったら何回でもやるっていうことすら知らないんですか？八木沢さんと。
いや知ってるよ、先週そういう話になったんだもん。
それは知ってんなら。
ちなみに言うと八木沢君ゼミのボードに上げてはくれていたけど議事録なかったから。
議事録って
ブログとは別でブログにそのまましてくれてもいいんだけど。
あ、コメントとかも全部。
いやまあどう取るかはあれだけど。
じゃあでも
今まで
八木沢さんそれだけやったらいいんですよね。
ブログ来てないもん。
俺が書いてます。
ブログと議事録は来てないんですか？
そう。
来てないかもしれない。
ぐるぐる回って
ずっとあとみんな助かるっていう。
これこんなに10になって
セミナーボードって前なんかそんな議事録とかってなかったですよね。
だから
今回
あそこにだからチェアマンのところに議事録って書いてある。
それやべえじゃん。
いや別にだってそのまま英語ブログにしたっていいんだし。
結構。ここがあれ？シャンさんは作れるってことは順番的に僕らはだってないかな。
大ネガ28はない。28と
M1 がだって
ないですよ。
それ次の最後の
4月だ。
それいいよドクター外して。
あ、
じゃあ年明けから11入れに行ったけど、じゃあじゃあこれ来週再来週21を年内最後としていいですね。そうですね。皆さんですね。いいんじゃないですか。年始はいつからですか？しましょうか。4結構やばいし。
俺ら始まってるからね。もう読んで。
そうなんですか。
仕事始めならいいんじゃない？
読んでる俺。
ああ。
ちなみにもう鳥貝君入れなくていいよ。発表者に。あと強制発表しかないから。冬スキーゼミとか本番。
できてるはず。
そう。
なんか最後の進捗報告。最後ファイナルレポート。
20、21。それ好き。
ちょっと11日入らないけど、
11スタートで。
冬合宿。
冬合宿。
あるよ。修論派。
じゃあ今日の
今日からゼミに参加させてもらう尾崎です。どんどん質問していきたいと思いますので、柔らかにお願いします。
来週尾崎君がカップ入れてる。ちゃんと君らから用意分かってんでしょだって。
自己紹介的な感じで
セルフイントロダクション。
発論がないらしいです。
いいんだよ。セルフイントロダクション。
まあ、
英語でだけどね。
重いな。
いいじゃん。
どうせ知らず
お前どんだけ助かってんのってんの。いいじゃん、別にただで英会話やってると思えば。週1回なんだし。
20回
どうするの、このまま留学生がどんどん増えていってさ、日本人の方が少なくなっちゃったら日常まで英語になっちゃう。
全然ありえますけど。
そう